Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the 1995 hockey rookie card designs. So, I'll say this every single time that I get to rookie cards for hockey, which is that it's difficult for me to determine which cards really should be considered rookie cards. This isn't just hockey. I mean, baseball does it too. Derek Jeter has rookie cards in 93, 94, and in 1995. With hockey, I don't like using like the youth league cards and the foreign team cards. To me, that just it defeats the purpose of what a rookie card is. But that's such a big part of the way that rookie cards or the way that hockey cards were done in the 1990s. And so for me, with 1995, I wanted to just focus on cards that were designed to be rookie cards, that were themed around that. And as I went through, I decided to just settle on 7 designs and go with these 7. If I tried to stretch it too far, then am I getting into best of and worst of? Then I got to get like 12. So I figured 7 would be the right balance. So I've got 3 cards that I think are pretty lousy, 3 that I think are pretty good, and there's 1 that's split right down the middle, actually quite literally. So so the rankings to me, these are pretty clear. There's only one case where it's a little iffy, but that's certainly not the case with what I consider to be the absolute worst, which is Zenith. And with Zenith, this is kind of a sports-specific issue because the nature of the Zenith card is difficult right out of the gate because you have that gold chromed background. You have the black band on one side with the subtractive text, and then you have the whole background for the rest of the card, which is really busy. And the problem you run into with all of this is the fact that there's a lot going on the card, and so the player gets isolated, but the player has to be able to compete with all of that that's going on back there. And while in baseball and football that might work, in hockey I don't think that it does, which is kind of weird because the bright, flashy colors of hockey you would expect would be able to counter it, but it kind of gets lost. It's basically like the whole background is the whole focus because of all the detail work that's in it. And it hurts the ability to actually see the image of the player. The player isn't very clear and distinct and strong. The poses aren't, it's like the wrong combination. And so to me, this is the card that just fails the hardest. Number 2 and number 3, I really, 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 really want to flip these around, but I can't. Number 2, I gotta say, is Fleer Metal. Now, what I like about this card is that the idea for the etched foil on the back with all the rookie text on it is actually really cool. It has an interesting pattern to it. The fact that it can appear and disappear is pretty cool. And there's a bright energy to it that just reads so well, plus a certain level of creativity. I really like that. When you look at the other cards in the set, the veteran cards, with their patterns, the patterns don't really have as much of a distinction to them, nor do they read as well as a backdrop behind the player, whereas this one I think absolutely does. The thing that holds it back is down at the bottom, that torn paper, or I guess it's like torn steel, if that's a thing, the nameplate. It's way too lackluster. You would be forgiven for never even knowing that it's down there. That's the problem. Football was a little bit better. Basketball was a lot bit better, but really it would take until 1996 for Fleer to actually get a hold on how to design for these cards. And at this point, they certainly hadn't done that. So in hockey, what they came up with was an interesting idea, but because you can't see it, and because it's so soft and gentle, it does not provide the card with that thing that it needs for the card to feel anchored. So unfortunately, this is what we end up with. But I don't knock it enough to say that it's clearly worse than Finest, because Finest, to me, this one is not as much fun. It's not as energetic. That's the thing about the metal cards, is they're energetic, they're lively. The Finest cards don't have that. Now, the Finest cards have a really interesting design to them, and that's really the key that holds these cards up. But Topps had a difficult time wrapping their heads around how to design for Finest. And look, 1996 was not a good year for design for Finest, which actually got kicked off in the end of 95 with their hockey set. But still, it was an ambitious concept about putting together a really intricate design on a cardstock with technology that, frankly, it didn't work with the kind of designs that they were doing. Now, what's interesting about Finest is that when they would start using that for chrome, Topps Chrome actually was successful every single time. Some were a little bit better than others, but it's weird that all the Topps Chrome cards just worked, whereas Finest cards usually didn't. But that was because they couldn't get out of their own heads and allow these designs to work. At least the silver cards work better than the bronze cards. The gold cards, not quite as much, but the silver cards are the ones that work the best of all of these. But still, it's too diminutive. It doesn't have the pop that it needs, which Fleer does have. And I don't want to hear anything about if you take the protector off, the card looks better. It does, but it's not enough to make up for the fact that whether the protector's on or off, these cards just don't have the life that the technology should have. Some of the card does have it, but most of it, the design feature itself, is just too heavy and cumbersome. They'd still need to workshop Finest a bit to finally make it work. So, to me, that's the third worst. So now we move into the middle of this whole list, the one right in the middle, and that is, well, Select Certified. Now, the Select Certified rookie cards, to me, are a pleasant surprise in hockey. The football and the baseball cards I don't think read as well, but in hockey, see, everything I said about the Zenith card, about how you have all that gold chroming behind the player and the player gets lost, here they only have it on half of the card. The other half is a silver finish, and that means that there the player does pop out, and then you can have you can see it across both sides, but then you also have the interplay, which makes this card kind of energetic. I look at this card and I go, this looks like the card that Select Certified was entirely built around. It's the one Select Certified card that I think works, even better than the Parallel. So this is, it's a card that I look at in a positive way. I don't think it's a really good design, but I think it actually kind of works for what they were trying to do for Select Certified. So there's props for that, but it certainly doesn't look lousy. But it's not a top 3 card. And number 3, I have Score. Now, I gotta say right off the bat, the Score card, this is all about colors, and that's what they did so well here. You know, Score is a basic brand. It's supposed to be alongside Topps and Fleer. It's supposed to be like that. And this is a perfectly reasonable rookie card. Nothing too special, nothing really memorable, but it stands out. And it starts with the really clean white border on the card and the contrast between that and the bright colors, allowing the colors to really be rich and pop right off the card. And that's where this card succeeds so well. It does a great job of showcasing the player, not by silhouetting him, but by allowing for him to jump off the card and be strong and distinct, and allowing the colors to stand out in any display case. So while the design itself is not strong, the way the design is presented and made available, that is. And so it is definitely a success. My number 2 is Upper Deck. And for Upper Deck, this is where they did just about everything right. It has a full bleed image with usually very strong images. It has that color fade down at the bottom, which I think is a really nice accent. But the card needs something. It's missing something. And what it's missing is, well, that copper foil star rookie text at the bottom. And that's where these rookie cards come out, is the fact that these rookie cards with that foil or with that text, it brings the card a certain amount of interest and intrigue. When you get the light right, automatically your eyes lock in and you see it, and it gives a fanciness, and it does exactly what the card needs to accent everything else that it has. And this is something they would do quite a bit in the new millennium. I mean, for crying out loud, when I first saw this card, I thought it was a 2005 card, not a 1995 card. They did it more in the new millennium with great effect. I think this is the only time that they bothered to do this in the 1990s. And I'm so glad they did it because it took advantage of the potential that Upper Deck had, and it pulled it off. It succeeded with it. So very good. But definitely not number one, because for me, number one is Score Summit. And these rookie cards, it's like this is what Score Summit was built around. Again, you have the clean white background on the card, really clean and really white, but at the same time, it's also glossy. And the glossiness brings out everything on the card, especially, here we go again, the colors. The colors read so well on these cards. And there's just enough of that glossy white on it to allow for the colors to pop through, but still enough background to give a bit of an interest to the card so the player's not quite isolated. But then what really makes it work is down at the bottom you have that blue, icy blue, I guess, strip with the gold foil over it. And you have the contrast of the two. The gold foil is just strong enough. Basically, this card has a bunch of things going on, and it actually doesn't just grab my attention, it holds my attention. But also the blue works good as a complementary color to just about all of the teams, allowing the card to have some blending contrast with all the images. So that's the thing that I like about this card, is that they didn't design a great clean card. That was Upper Deck. This card has a lot of interest that has me excited to look at the cards, and that's really what I like about the cards. And that's how I rank these cards. So 3 of the cards I think are the worst, 3 I think are the best, 1 in the middle, could go either way. So now that I've finished out these 4 sports, now I get to do the worst of overall. So 3 of these cards will be definitely in contention for that. I'll be doing that next week. And then I start into the best of, which will obviously be for 3 sports, because we've got these 3 cards, which will then, in a little over a month, finish that up. So definitely check out those videos if you haven't had a chance. Do look out for the video next week to figure out what the worst card of what the worst rookie card of 1995 overall is. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And thank you very much for watching.